Welcome, folks, to another episode of the Workout and Podcast. And today we have a very special episode because we have not one special guest, but we have two special guests, Colleen Schnettler and Lianna Patch. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
I have a lot of questions, so I'm just going to start with the work that you're doing right now. You are both co-founders of this venture called SaaS Marketing Gym. Unique name. I looked at the website, I kind of went through it, and I looked at your backgrounds like, this sounds exciting. So why don't you tell us what this is all about?
Well, I had a coach who would make me show up to our calls and do the work that I was avoiding. And he called it gym time. And so basically was thinking of SaaS Marketing Gym as the same thing for founders and just went with the name. It just stuck. And we thought about renaming it, right, Colleen? And then we were like, no, I think gym works because it feels like a workout.
Yeah, and I think the way it came about was I am a technical founder and I know a lot of technical founders. They're in my network. And when I was building my last business, I learned just so much about marketing. And I think so many of us, especially people who are technical, we know we have to validate. We know we have to talk to customers, but really we just want to build things. So we build something, or at least what happened to me and many people I know, you build something, you get some initial traction, you have some MRR, and then you're like, oh, shoot, how do I break outside my network? Like, how do I break outside my audience? And the only way to do that is marketing. And so I basically spent the past year just learning how to do marketing. And I think to Liana's point, especially for technical founders, sometimes the hardest part of marketing is actually doing it.
Right. And so you kind of alluded to it, by the way, Colleen, that you two have very different backgrounds. You are very technical. And Lianna, you have even some, like, you dabble with some comedy stuff. And it's such a unique kind of combo. Maybe you can talk us through your backgrounds and like, where did it all start for you, right? Because we're looking right now at SaaS Marketing Gym as this is the nexus, the pinnacle point of like, here's what you're building now. But there was a story before that. And what led you here?
Well, yes, we have very different skill sets. And honestly, that's what makes us great co-founders is we complement each other so well. But the origin story is kind of funny. Lianna, do you mind if I tell the origin story?
Not at all.
Okay. So Lianna and I knew each other socially, I would say, like on Twitter, and we had met a few times. And we were both at a conference, Spark Together. And honestly, we were just drinking at the bar. Like, we were literally drinking at the bar, talking about stuff. I was at this kind of pivotal phase in my business where things were not going great and I wasn't sure what I was going to do next, but I was just so excited about all of the things I had learned doing marketing. And I know that sounds so nerdy, like, or so lame. Like, no one gets excited about marketing, but it was just like this huge, sorry, except for Lianna, she gets excited.
I get excited about marketing.
I'm sorry. Very few technical founders get excited about marketing. And so I was just so excited because I had been doing it so intensely and just felt like it was a huge unlock for me. Whether whatever happened next with my business, you have to be able to do marketing to grow a business. And obviously, Lianna is a marketing and copywriter and an expert in this field. And so we were just like, let's try this thing. And it was a month, like we just signed people up for a month. And the response was incredible. We tweeted about it like twice and we signed up, like we filled the entire cohort. And it kind of blew my mind, actually. So that's kind of how it got started.
Yeah, just a Notion page and a couple of tweets, and we had a bunch of founders sneaking into our inbox being like, hey, I think this could really help me. Can I give you money? We're like, yes, something is happening.
So truly the definition basically of the minimum viable product. You did not throw millions of dollars at putting this fancy landing page and marketing campaigns. It's all about, I want to say, like grassroots.
Yeah, and also, I don't know if we're allowed to curse on your podcast, Den, but it's very no bullshit, I think, because especially technical founders are good at sniffing out bullshit and they refuse to be really sold to or marketed to. And so we had to come at them from the perspective of, hey, we understand you. One half of us is you. That's not grammar. And we will focus ruthlessly on what will actually help you. And we're not going to put together like a fancy, shiny thing that distracts you from the real work.
What I also find interesting is that a lot of developers, especially if you think about like you're a stereotypical engineer, they think like, oh, marketing, like I don't need marketing. I'll just build this fancy product. I'll put it out in the world and people will just love it because I put all this effort into it and it solves a problem. Reality is different, right? And you two are experts in that. Why is marketing important? Why is marketing something that you can just put to the side and say, I'll do this later?
I feel like, yes, there is product-led growth. A lot of amazing products sell themselves in a lot of ways, but you're going to eventually reach that critical mass where you've saturated your network. And then you have to market, like Colleen was saying. You have to go outside of that group if you want to scale, which most solo founders do. So you have to have the skills to market if you want to be successful beyond just like a side project.
I agree, of course. I also think I think the reason technical founders specifically struggle with marketing is because it's so nebulous. It's not input in, input out. Like it's not like building a feature where you immediately build the feature and then you ship it and you can see people using it. And I think why people like SaaS Marketing Gym, which is kind of a coaching, it's really coaching, I think, is we are there to you have to keep going through the muck, right? Like cuz it takes a long time and because you have to consistently put work in over and over and over and over. It's never done. And it can be hard and it can be scary if you've never done it before and you expect to see immediate results and you don't because that's just the nature of what we're trying to do here. And I also think, especially now with everything that is happening in AI, you have to work harder to stand out, right? We can, whether we agree or not that the price of intelligence is going to zero, like it is so much easier and faster for people to spin up apps. Competitors, like you really, really have to have strong marketing to stand out right now.
Tag teaming with that, a lot of what we're asking founders to do is be very personal and build founder led brands and be the voice of their product in a way that AI generated copy or content really just can't do. And so that's another way to stand out is like, hey, be yourself. And a lot of founders need a little nudge, a little support to do that.
Right. So it's not just an ad campaign where you're like, yeah, I'm going to put some, Google AdWords together and get it out in the wild. That's my marketing strategy, basically. People will discover it. It's much deeper than that. And actually, you touched on the point of AI, and I'm curious how you see this because so many things are changing so fast. And one of the statements that I've seen in the wild is that, well, AI is going to make SaaS obsolete completely. Like nobody needs SaaS, right? Because AI, it's customizable for everyone, which I don't know. It's a bit of a doomerous take in my opinion. But you decided to focus on SaaS marketing specifically. What do you see in the future of SaaS here? Because it seems that there's some intersection here.
It is kind of a depressing take, and I have heard it several times. This whole is SaaS going to die because everyone's going to build custom workflows, and there's no way that's going to happen. Like I am staking my flag in the ground. That is absolutely not going to happen. Okay, we live in this super niche world of super technical people, and that is not the rest of the world. Like that is not what most people are doing. So SaaS is here to stay. Now, the structure and the shape of it might change. Like I've heard some interesting theories about how agents are going to change the way we do work. I think that is totally reasonable and possible that instead of going into your Google Analytics to figure out what you're going to do, you're going to have software that's an agent, like agentic software that's just going to tell you, like, do it for you. That's a little digression. But yeah, man, I'm still on Team SaaS. It's not going to die. Like it's like the people who are, Image Gen came out yesterday, right, with OpenAI, and it's like the people who are like, oh, every single image generation software is going to die. It's not true because your average person is not going to build a wrapper around ChatGPT Image Gen. So again, I'm sorry, guys. I'm off topic. I just have lots of thoughts on AI. Like I'm so off topic. Anyway, the moral of the story is SaaS is not going to die. It might look different, but it's here to stay, and marketing your SaaS is absolutely worth your time.
One of the things that I appreciate most about Colleen is that she reminds me very often about how big and diverse the world is. Because I get very stuck in my I know everybody and everybody knows me. And it makes me more effective at writing copy because I feel closer to the people I'm writing to. But also there's a whole world out there. And we are among very technical people. Most people aren't doing this. Most people writing copy don't want to become prompt engineers from the copy side of it. And prompt engineering is a whole separate discipline that you could be good or bad at too. So I'm on team SaaS as well.
Yeah, I'd say probably me too, because I just can't see a world where you have a mom and pop shop that, sells flowers or something, and say, how about you build your own custom workflow with this AI tool and make your accounting software be that? It's like, can I just pay somebody to have it for me? And not worry about it and focus on selling flowers or whatever I'm doing? I don't know. That to me sounds easier.
And also things will still break. And when they break, people want other people to fix them. Like if you build a whole agent workflow and then something goes wrong, who's going to help you?
Right.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of flex there, and I definitely do not see SaaS just going away completely and saying well, now you have this AI that can do everything and magically file your taxes and all 100% correct all the time. But all this being said, how is SaaS Marketing Gym different than other offerings out there? Because, founders have had exposure to a variety of courses and videos and books about marketing. And it seems it's just read those. But SaaS Marketing Gym is not that. How is it different?
First of all, courses are aspirational. Most people who purchase courses do not finish them. Okay? So what I love about what we build, and honestly, I have this whole thing about communities that most communities are bad. Most communities are bad because wait for it.
Hot take.
Colleen's about to soapbox over here, okay? Sorry, everyone, if I'm in your community. I'm sure you're lovely. Most communities are bad because there is an incentive, unalignment. The incentives are not aligned. So if you run a community, you are incentivized to grow that community to make more money. However, communities only work if they are small, because communities only work if you have trust. So every single founder community I have ever joined grows as it becomes popular, and it becomes zero value to me, and I don't participate anymore because I don't have this trust, right? You don't have this trust and this feeling of safety. So one of the things that was really important to us, more so me, based on this soapbox, was this is not like a big community. One of the really, really valuable things we do is we do it cohort based and we cap it. So there's only 8 founders. And because of that, people just show up, people just show up to hang out. The people in our group have built these relationships. So it's almost like marketing, and there's a little tiny bit of masterminding in there because we meet with these guys every single day. And so that is one of the things I love is I've always wanted to start a founder community that was actually good. And I think we've done that, even though that was not our intention. So there's that aspect of it where it's this feeling of psychological safety and this feeling of trust amongst the other founders. And then there's also the coaching aspect, which is forcing you to do the marketing, right? We basically sit down with you when you sign up and we do an hour-long call with you and we build out a marketing plan where we tell you what to do literally every single day. So you get a calendar and it tells you what to do every single day. And then you show up and you execute. And I think the most valuable part, the most valuable part is people get stuck, especially with words, right? And Lianna loves words. Yay! And so people will get stuck, but founders know they need to do these things. They know they should be posting on LinkedIn. They know they should be sending a newsletter, but they just get in their own way. I mean, I was like this. I feel like I can speak so passionately about this because I was literally like this. It's oh my gosh, words are so hard. I'm just not going to do it. So Lianna gets in there and will just write the words for you.
Usually out loud. Usually
Out loud.
workshopping them. And we'll be like, oh, no, that was terrible. Let's try again. Which is also showing them it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Can I step onto your soapbox, Colleen? Do you have more to
Yes.
say?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
I feel like there's also the emotional benefits of like the weight is off your shoulders of having to figure out what to do along with having to figure out when to build, what to build, so having someone tell you what to do, and then the accountability and execution seems to outweigh what you'd think it would. Like when we were starting SaaS Marketing Gym, I was like, I don't know, is just having them show up and telling them to do stuff enough? Yes, it is. And they love it. um, and I had the same experience, right, when I was working with a business coach, where just like show up, be told what to do, get it done, feel good about it, and then go about the rest of your day. And that's how you make progress.
I love that, and mainly because it echoes with something that Saron Yadbarek was talking about last year on this podcast, where she was starting this community called Cash Money 2024. And for that, it's exactly the same approach of you have to keep it small and you have to build trust. Because I know for myself, I'm an aspiring product manager. I've seen communities pop up left and right like mushrooms after the rain, where it's like, oh, it's the new PM hyped community in Slack and Discord, and you join there and there's like 10,000 people, and it just becomes a link farm where everybody's just trying to promote their blog and whatever site, and it's like, it's useless. It's like I don't learn anything there. I don't connect with anybody. So that inherent trust feels so important.
There's also I think there's an element of like community shepherding that comes into it, and you can really tell when a community manager is just sort of going through the motions versus like actually invested and trying to help people make connections, help people get stuff done. Like I think we come across as good community managers, good shepherds, right? But you can definitely tell when someone is just putting in the hours.
And so you require founders to essentially, like, if you're joining this, it's about hands-on work. You're not just coming in here to watch a bunch of videos, to listen to a bunch of podcasts. It's about actually doing the work.
Yeah.
We try not to give them homework. We ask how much time do you have to dedicate to marketing, and we try to keep it contained in our 90-minute meetings 4 times a week. And some people want to spend their whole days marketing. That's where their product is right now. And some people just have the 90 minutes and sometimes a fraction of the 90 minutes.
How do you split the responsibilities of, I want to say, like, co-founding the company? You co-founded it already. Like, you're co-running it. How do you balance out who's doing what in this scenario? Because I'm assuming that the responsibility bar is very high. Like, you're working with a lot of founders. There's cohorts of folks. How does it work?
How does it work, Colleen?
Okay, so I love this. Every technical founder will love this so much, but now I have a co-founder who likes words, and it has changed my life. Like, I can't even tell you. Like, writing a landing page, I joke that like I'll write an email, send it to Lianna, and she'll just rewrite it. She'll be like, "This is what is this?"
With love.
With love, she'll rewrite everything I write, and I love that so much.
And for me, that's the fun part. Like Colleen excels at the organization, keeping people in line, like giving the structure. And I just sort of blow in there like a tornado, and I'm like, let's write a landing page. So it's a nice balance.
But I also like that Colleen mentioned at the very beginning that kind of your skills kind of complement each other. And so it basically, everybody is focused on something they're deeply passionate about and they deeply care about the craft of, so that you don't have to do work that doesn't excite you. Like, would that be the right framing?
Yes, I love that framing, because that's what it feels like to me. I like to feel organized. I like to know what everyone's working on. I want their little boxes checked off. And the things that don't excite me, that stress me out, are things like writing landing pages, like the copy, writing emails. And I think Lianna loves that stuff.
Oh, yeah. If I can paint with a broad brush, marketing is a balance of strategy and creativity, and she's the strategy on the creativity. We both dabble in each other's realms. Like, I've seen Colleen write great emails,
Thank you.
but most of us, I think it's like a 90-90 mix, and each of us does 10% of the others.
I want to talk a bit more about your individual backgrounds. So we'll start with Colleen, because you are I want to say, like, a technical person that you mentioned that you spent a lot of time learning marketing. What was the push for you that you said, you know what, I do need to figure this out? Like, it's not just about technical skill. Marketing plays a big role here.
Well, my business was a dumpster fire, and I was just
Oh,
trying to pull it back from the recesses of destruction. So I figured I should learn how to do marketing. Um, that's only half a joke. That really is what happened. So basically, I had a business, and it was going okay-ish, and I realized that what was happening to me is I was getting a lot of people who follow me on social media, which I super appreciate, who were casually interested in something, and I took that as a positive signal that it was a thing to build. And I think in hindsight, that was the wrong signal to take. So, what I was really trying to do, I call it my year of marketing last year. I was really trying to reach people outside of my network, people who didn't know me, to see if what I was building was the right thing. So, that was really how I leaned in hard. I mean, my marketing, like founder led marketing on LinkedIn, was kind of my vibe. And so I leaned in hard to that in the past year, a lot of cold outbound. And these people didn't know me. And so I was getting more accurate signals. So that's kind of why I took that path.
So it's basically trial by fire. You kind of
Yeah, it was.
had to do it. Basically, it's not just about, again, because we get into the habit oftentimes where it's like, oh, I'll read a book, like Seth Godin wrote a book or something. I'll read that. I'll be good at marketing. But like until the rubber touches the road, like you don't know marketing. You have to do it.
Yeah,
yeah.
I totally agree.
That's a lot of the execution part of it is like building that callus, building that muscle, like just post. And the bar is so low at the beginning because, if your audience is small, no one's going to see it. You can say whatever you want. Like get the reps in, gym metaphor, get the reps in, and then you'll get more done.
And Lianna, in your context, speaking of words, you have an interesting twist to the kind of the art of copywriting. And that is, it's not just copywriting for the sake of, me putting out words into the world, but you take it more like humorous approach. And this is what I saw in Punchline Copy. And this is the kind of the trademark that you've established for yourself. When did you find out that there's kind of ROI in taking that approach versus just becoming a good writer, if you will?
So this was about 10 years ago. I had burned out on running my business after 7 or 8 years. I had become a de facto copy editor and I was working on a bunch of print magazines. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I went to work for an agency and was quickly like, no, I should go back to work for myself. And I was already learning how to write conversion copy, thanks to Joanna Wiebe, who founded Copy Hackers. And I joined her first mastermind. And at the time, I was also doing stand-up. I just started getting into stand-up and I was like, man, I wish there was a way I could combine, stand-up and copywriting because I feel like I'm putting on a mask when I email clients back. And Joanna was like, well, why don't you just do that? And I was like, whoa, okay. And so then because I feel like an imposter all the time, I went looking for psychological and sociological reasons that funny works to convert. And it turns out there are a lot of them. And so backed with my research, I relaunched as Punchline Copy. And that was early 2016.
Wow, time flies. It's
Right?
Close to a decade now.
I know. I'm so old.
We never said that, for the record.
We're the legal team. We never said that.
So it sounds like both of you are very much approaching this from the perspective of you have to practice the craft to actually be good at it. So it's not just about you talking, because there's a lot of courses that I've seen in the past where it's like the person is talking about, they're trying to sell you on this, but the more you kind of get the vibe is like, but they've never done that. Like what they're talking about, they never achieved success. Both of you have had that experience where you went through the motions of actually getting that experience, which leads me to my next question. And that is, it seems like with the way things are going and things are moving very, very quickly, you do need to keep your skills more or less like updated regularly. It's like how to get better at marketing, how to get better at copy, how to get better at making sure that resonates with technical founders. What is your approach to being up to date with the world, if you will?
I just like Colleen, tell me what's going on. That's not true. Okay. I'm also terminally online. Colleen, what's your real answer?
So I think the first most obvious answer here is we are doing it one-on-one with all of our founders. So we see it in real time, like we are trying new things because you're right. And one of the cool things we do too is we try a lot of new tools. Like, we're not anti-AI in SaaS Marketing Gym. Like, we love AI.
Mhm.
We just think it needs to be used very carefully. So we're trying it with our own founders, and I still have a SaaS. So I'm trying it with my own SaaS. So it's really fun for me because, like, I can teach people and work with people and then use the things I am learning to work on my own SaaS. So it's like a win-win-win there.
Yep. I think what we're trying to teach them, especially with AI, is how to determine what is a good output and how to fix it, right? So, like, you can get copy that's 80% of the way there from Claude, but if you can't pick out the cliches and you can't figure out, like, that's actually not aligned with my messaging, then you're not making any progress.
Yeah, I think too, when you talk about like staying up with everything that's going on, Liana's skill set as a copywriter and a storyteller and being funny, like, that's timeless. Like, that
We
is,
hope.
oh no, for sure. It's for sure. Like, we can do all the AI, but people connect with people, people connect with stories, and people want to be entertained. So that kind of work, I think, is just so important and always useful.
I think there is something to be said there where, Colleen, I think you mentioned not being anti AI, not being like you're. It's like, are you anti hammer? Right? It's like, well, it's a tool. It's a tool that you have to use when it is appropriate. It's not appropriate for everything, and there still needs to be some level of kind of human input to guide it to what exactly you're trying to achieve. What are you trying to do? And it's also very easy to spot this kind of the low effort. I call it, like, I mean, I'm sure that's a term, like the AI slop,
Yeah.
right? Where like you
Mhm.
see at somebody's like page and like no human ever touched this page. It's like they just copy pasted ChatGPT into it, and there you go. There's a landing page, and it's just, it gives you that icky vibe of just like, this is not good. This is not. I don't trust this.
Yeah. Yeah, I am looking at especially the LLMs as like a tool for teaching founders more about what good copywriting is. So, like, tell me what pains to emphasize or give me a basic structure for a landing page or an email versus write this for me with very little context.
I agree. I think we use AI to get over the blank page problem because that's what a
Mhm.
lot of founders have. And it's almost like we use it in the beginning, and then we have them write something and then maybe give it one more pass. But yeah, you just have to, I mean, everything is changing, and it's so interesting because we get pitched software all the time now that we have SaaS Marketing Gym. And we just got pitched this software that does cold email outbound, that basically monitors your social. So it's trying to completely automated build cold outbound that looks like it's real. And this stuff is everywhere. And so you just really, really have to make sure your content is not completely AI generated and it has humanity in it. And but the other thing, to your point about AI slop, because especially on LinkedIn, there's so much. It, like, right? Like,
Yes, yes, so much.
it's so much. Like, it's easy to stand out if you put a little bit of effort in.
Just throw a typo into one of your posts and bam, more genuine.
Bam.
Or some humor, because I honestly, like, this is the kind of stuff where you see this, like, the thought leadership, right? It's like the 1-page essay of like emoji bullet points, and
Oh
you're
my
like,
gosh.
no, you did not write that.
Yeah. Here's like, I tripped in a parking lot this weekend, and here's what it taught me about B2B sales. Like, oh my God, go to the hospital.
And there's an AI generator of them, image of them tripping, of course.
Right. Oh, yes. Yeah. Like, if you're going to make you an image, come up with something better.
Speaking of kind of a lot of this kind of context of founders making mistakes in terms of marketing, in your experience, what are those? What are the biggest, I want to say, like, traps that founders fall in when they think about marketing, when they think about their content, when they think about their landing pages, anything of that nature?
I think not doing it is the first
Yep.
trap they
That's
fall
what I was going to say.
into. Right. And what's interesting too is people come to us and they have like these really long lists of things they want to do for marketing. So there's something about that, like, just getting started or just taking all of your ideas and organizing them. And I think what happens to people is we all have read, a ton of books, to your point from earlier, about how reading a book is not doing the thing. And so we've all read all these books about what to do, and we have these very long lists in the back of our head about all the marketing we're going to do. And I think what happens is people just get overwhelmed by the
Mhm.
size of these mental lists, and so they do nothing.
So we take the list and we say, what's actually going to get you ROI? What's going to feel like you're making progress? What's going to give you some momentum? Let's break it down into weeks. Let's break those weeks into days. And then let's ruthlessly hound you to check things off.
Yeah, and I think another mistake people make is they think they can AI their way out of it.
Mm.
Like that's just a huge like people. Okay, so I am guilty of this, guys. When I was doing marketing, I don't know, like a year and a half ago for Simple File Upload, I was like, man, it is just too hard to write content. I'm just gonna let the AI do it. And I did. And it got like 0 views. I mean,
Mm.
like zero traction. And I was like, oh, right, because this is crap. Okay, noted. So you have to put the work in, is where I'm going with that. There is no silver bullet here. There's no like, oh, if I just sign up for the right AI service, like everything will be magical. Like that's not a thing. It's not going to work.
The other common thing we see happen with almost everyone is that the moment they sit down to actually put the work in and write something like a post or an email, they turn into this weird, stilted robot version of themselves. And they're like, I don't know how to construct a sentence. And I'm like, how would you say it out loud? They'll be the most personable, funny, like casual in the Slack and on the calls. And then they sit down to write and they go back to like their 5th grade self. And they're like, a paragraph has an opening sentence, 3 body sentences, and a conclusion. And so we're sort of training them out of that habit and to be more conversational. And my suspicion is that that also helps them be more open outside of SaaS Marketing Gym, which helps them make connections, which helps them sell more. This is my like, this is tangentially connected to my frenzied love of improv, which is like if you do improv once, you start wanting to do it everywhere and you become a better version of yourself. But I'll leave that to the side for now.
That's still relevant, right? It's a skill.
It is. And this, like the skill of openness, the skill of more casual conversation transcends marketing.
And now that you're saying this, it makes it obvious in retrospect that it's very easy to spot these kind of robotic landing pages or anything that was like, what are you even trying to say? Like you open some startup's page and you're like, I don't get it. Like, what is this about? Like, what are you trying to do? Versus something like when I looked at SaaS Marketing Gym, like it kind of clicked right away. When I looked at Punchline Copy, it's like, yeah, I get it. But like, there's so much of this in the wild where it's just like, look, man, I just don't know what this is about, and I'm not interested in paying for it.
It's the technical founder trap. It's like, well, I built all the features. Here they are. Love them. And we're like, but how do they make you feel? How do they help you? You know, I'm big on feelings right now. I'm on a feelings kick, trying to make people feel things.
It works though. It's that emotional aspect to what does it actually make you feel about a product, your, increasing productivity or whatever you want to frame it as.
Our little business cards that we had made for MicroConf say, do more marketing stuff, get more customers, feel pretty good about it. And the pretty is in there because feel good about it is too big of a claim for skeptical founders.
The reverse of that, what do you see the best founders do about marketing right away that is like, oh wow, this is good, do more of that? What is the right thing to get started? Let's say they get over the hump of getting started and they want to get started. What do you see?
I see an intensity of execution with the same intensity they approach product.
Mm.
Man, that could be a tweet. That was good. I just came up with that.
Golf claps.
Thank you. I could do words too, sometimes.
You can tweet that before this podcast goes live. That's like that's pre-marketing.
Pre-marketing.
we just invented pre-marketing today. Tomorrow it'll be pre-marketing. I'm thinking about the tweet. The thing that came to mind for me is actually one founder who, when we started him on his cold outreach program in LinkedIn, wrote this very sort of self-deprecating, funny, casual outreach message that was getting him, I want to say, between 30 and 50% acceptance and response rates. And so I want to say like self-awareness and self-deprecation is a great thing to kick people off. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to position this in the context of your question. Like, it's not a marketing thing to do, but it's a position to start your marketing from that makes people more open to receiving it. We're back to openness. We're back to feelings.
And it's mainly because, again, you're talking about that humanity of I'm approaching
Yeah.
this as me, a person, talking to you across the screen as another person. It's not about just me having a sales pitch or trying to, have you enter the credit card.
And the acknowledgement that the pitch, whether it's casual or not, may be unwanted, that just takes the pressure off. So it's like learning to have these human pressure valve releases. Like, hey, this might not be the right fit for you, or hey, I totally understand if you're too busy, or like, feel free to ignore. And then the person's like, oh, well, I'm free to ignore, but maybe I'll respond anyway. Reverse psychology. Got him.
That's the strategy. It's the reverse psychology. Now, in the context of a lot of startups, and I'm sure you're working with a lot of kind of the SaaS businesses, it's not usually just the founder, right? They have a team of folks that are working with. It's an engineering team, a product team. What are the most common kind of disconnects between the two that you see where it's the founder has the enthusiasm, the founder has a desire to do marketing, but like the execution on the product and engineering is just not quite gluing well together? What are those barriers that you see in your experience, but in kind of crossing the chasm, if you will?
I don't know if we've seen that. We do have a lot of solo founders. If anything, outside of SaaS Marketing Gym, what I usually see is, you're paying an employee and they don't share the same passion for solving the problem that you're solving. They're just there to collect a paycheck, and that translates into their work, especially if the work is customer facing. But I don't think we see a lot of that in the gym.
It's much more, I say, like well-oiled machine, where it's like people are coming in with a perspective like I know I want to do this, I will do this.
Yeah, or if they have an employee, they're a contract dev, so they're not asking them to really buy in to the vision of the product.
Both of you started SaaS Marketing Gym, and a lot of marketers kind of dream of the idea of like starting their own agency, if you will, having their own business, because like that sounds exciting. Like any entrepreneurship is exciting. What are the less glamorous parts of the job?
Notion.
I knew you were going to say that.
I knew you knew I was going to say that. For me, it's Notion. What is it for you, Colleen?
Well, it's just always the ops stuff, right? The accounting and the taxes and I call that the boring business stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
that's
Zoom
always
room
that.
setup.
Yeah, all that stuff. Not my favorite.
And yet you both went down the path of kind of entrepreneurship. What is that kind of innate, I want to say, like drive to be an entrepreneur for you instead of, oh, I'll just join some company. I'll be a marketer at Goldman or anything like that?
Arrogance. I think it's like the secret belief that you could do it better, and the refusal to do it someone else's way just because they're your boss. I have been told I'm unhireable, unemployable. It's been a long time since I had a full-time job.
Which I guess is a good trait to have, right? Is that drive. It's like, I want to do this and I can do it better. I love it.
Yeah.
I have a lot of answers to this question. And I mean, I could go, I'm trying to decide which direction to go. I think, it's tricky as you're a developer, because the truth is I could make a lot more money and work less hard doing something else. So there is a push and pull for me. For me, it always just felt like freedom. And the thing that I don't think I've said, but is a real thing, is I'm a woman engineer, and I have been an engineer since I was 20. And I was just sick of, this sounds really bad, but like I was just sick of all the men and all the sexism, and like I was just so tired of it. Like it was just so exhausting. And so I was like, I'm just not going to do it anymore. Like I'm going to opt out of this whole corporate structure and the way I was treated when I was the only woman at a company. And so, it's freedom. It's that. I mean, I would say it's the ability to make my own schedule, but that's a lie because we work all the time, right? Like,
But it's fun, right?
but it is. Like, I
Yeah.
love it. Like, I'm not upset about it, but it is
Yeah.
like I can theoretically work 4 hours a day. Like, when was the last time I worked 4 hours a day? Like, never. But yes, it's all those things. But I do think like I see this differently in different people. Like, I think people are just wired differently. Because I think being independent is way, way, way harder, to my earlier point about either of us could just go get a job and make more money and work less. And I think it's just like this inherent way that I am wired and other people who choose to be independent are wired. I was reading this article once from a friend of mine who's a founder, And he said something along the lines of, I want to be an entrepreneur because it is the hardest thing to do. And I am not happy unless I am pushing myself to find out what I'm made of. And that speaks to me. I was like, oh yeah, that's why I do it too. Because it's professionally the hardest thing to do. Lianna's like, nah.
I'm like, no, that's not me.
Okay, well, that's me.
I love not working. I love working for 4 hours a day and then like going for a bike ride or going kayaking or something. It has been a while since I've done that. But I'm always thinking about what I'm going to make next while I'm out there, right? I think that's the difference. Like, my partner will come home from work and be like, okay, I'm not thinking about work. I'm like, how do you do that? I want to think about work. I want to talk about work. I want to, make new stuff. So yeah, the wiring is different. You're right, Colleen.
I think that's the difference between, right, like working something you're genuinely excited about, something that you want to build, versus just going through the motions because it's, this is yet another meeting, yet another project to deal with it. And it's like, I don't really care about it, but I kind of have to do it to pay the bills. How do you mitigate the risk though, right? Like when both of you became entrepreneurs, it's a scary jump to make, right? For somebody listening to this that wants to follow kind of the path of entrepreneurship, one of their questions could be like, well, that's great, but what if it doesn't work out? What happens then? What's your mental framework there?
I think the answer might be the same for both of us. If it doesn't work out, we can go get a job, right? That's my sort of backup plan.
But how do you mitigate the risk of being independent?
I guess I don't see it as a risk because of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I first got into consulting, so my kind of path from W-2 job to independent was like kind of what traditional developers do. You have a W-2 job, you quit that job, you start consulting full time, and then you start businesses, which is a nice path in case anyone's wondering. But when I first made the jump from W-2 to independent developer consultant, like I thought it felt very risky to me because the boom bust cycle of consultancies, right? Of being a consultant. Like all of a sudden you have more work than you can handle. So you're working all the time, but it's a challenge to always keep that pipeline filled. So when you're done with a job, like you have another job. And I do think it's harder, right? Because you have to go out there and you have to source your own work. So I do think that's challenging. I mean, for me right now, I was just thinking about this the other day, actually. I accidentally diversified my income streams. So that feels good, right? I do Rails consulting. So I still do a little bit of developer consulting. We have SaaS Marketing Gym and I have a little SaaS that brings in a little bit of money. So that gives me a little more comfort to know like there's multiple things I could turn up if I needed to, if I lost one of them. But yeah, I think it feels riskier, like it does, than working kind of more traditional job.
I think I used to worry more about the risk when I had mostly retainer clients. And it was like, well, what if this sort of foundational retainer client drops out from under me? And then I got really sick of working on retainer and I fired all of them. And now I only do project work. And I don't think about where the projects are going to come from. They just sort of show up in my inbox and like, I'm very lucky. I know it's not like that for most people. So to avoid totally freaking out, I just don't think about it.
It's a good strategy.
And advise.
Basically, no. I love that for everything in life. Like, it's a good strategy.
Just everything
don't
out
think
here
about
is
it.
terrible. Yeah.
And I guess it's like in both cases, you've built that reputation about yourself where folks know what you do, folks know the quality you deliver, folks know kind of the amount of care you put into the project. So then kind of business becomes almost like a flywheel. It becomes a little bit easier because you kind of have to lean on that reputation versus, hey, I'm some like unknown person that does something, give me money so I can fix their problems.
Right.
Oh yeah, 100%. I was talking to a founder, Lianna and I were at MicroConf last week, and I was talking to a founder there who was just kind of amazed at how SaaS Marketing Gym is working. And he was like, well, how do you find people? I was like, they just come to us.
They find us. Yeah.
Right. And his point, he was like, oh yeah, it's 10 years of work to be an overnight success, right? It's 10 years of us speaking at conferences and putting content in the world and building an audience and meeting people to have this thing that looked like it was so easy. But it's all that work you do that no one sees that makes it so easy.
Because everybody wants to be that overnight, like viral X, Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever's the trendy, like, oh, I'll get like thousands of followers and that's it. But like also followers don't translate to reputation. Followers don't translate to actual professional kind of image that people then recognize you by. Like and those two can often be mistaken because people think like, oh, look at this tech influencer that has hundreds of thousands of followers. And this is actually something that happened when we were talking about risk, which is a recent conversation about how when the kind of the ZERP era more or less dried out, and all of a sudden all these tech influencers that we saw that quit their jobs to do courses and whatever, it just dried up. It disappeared overnight, and they all had to get a job because mainly it's like, well, the market's not there anymore, and the risk was not mitigated. There is no, and I like the kind of the idea of building that reputation, spending time, putting in the reps. Again, the gym analogy here is that you have to put the actual work to build this out. There's no shortcut. It's not just about you writing a blog post, tossing the link on LinkedIn and be like, all right, there's marketing. There you go. People recognize me now.
I will say my shortcut, because I am very lazy and I will not market myself. And this, I guess, counts as marketing, but I just will speak as a channel for, marketing punchline. And then it's everybody comes up to me after, presuming I did an okay job. And that's how I get clients. And that is something that we suggest as an avenue for some founders, especially if they have a really strong point of view or they're super passionate or very eloquent about what they're doing. We'll say, hey, why don't you go pitch some podcasts, or why don't you put together a conference talk, because this is a one-to-many approach that would be easier than, one-on-one LinkedIn DMs.
I actually really like the pitch yourself in a podcast, because I think that is another part that is hard to do, is that cold outreach of promoting yourself, but not coming off as like, oh, I'm just self-promoting, right? Because I think that part is easy. Like, people email everybody and just, you can tell that there's it's an email blast with thousands of people. It's like, I want to come on your podcast and talk about business. I'm like, all right, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Sounds fun.
Right. Like there's no kind of background to it, but at the same time, it's like doing it right still pays dividends. If you know how to do it right, will still allow you to unlock these new opportunities. Now, I actually want to ask both of you, because you both are excellent speakers. Like I can tell from this podcast, how did you develop those skills of just being comfortable to speak publicly, being comfortable to share your story? Like, it's not an easy thing for founders to develop, for example, because, especially for technical founders, like knowing some of those folks in the community, myself included, it's very easy to kind of think of like, I'm in a room, I'm building my product. Like, I don't need to talk to anybody about this. How did that go for you?
I've always been an attention-loving oversharer, so that was I was always like, "Hey, over here," when there's a camera involved. So yeah, and then I started doing stand-up in 2012 and improv and sketch, and so I've always liked to be on stage. I think for our founders, and Colleen, you can speak to this too, it's building their confidence. It's listening to their opinions and the way they say things and saying, hey, that was really good. You should use that as a tagline. You should pitch that in a podcast. Like, that should be the thing you build your positioning around. And then they go, oh, okay, yeah, maybe my thoughts are valid. Maybe I am good. Like, yes, keep going.
Yeah, after spending time with Lianna, I want to try improv now. Because it just I really want to try it, because I was like, I got to get better at this. I'm pretty good, but I could be so much better.
It's so fun.
It's so much pressure.
I know, right?
Dan, have you ever done improv?
No,
me neither.
I would be terrified of this. Honestly, maybe in the future. I don't know. Right now, I just feel like getting in front of on a stage in front of a bunch of people I don't know and just riff off top of my head.
Sounds terrifying.
Okay, but that is the main misconception. We don't have to talk about this. Lianna, shut up. The main misconception of improv is that you're going to get thrown on a stage in front of people with no training and just have to come up with a funny scene. But actually, beginner improv classes are the most fun, because you just get little exercises and little games to play. You build up your skills. You start to learn how to use those skills in a scene, and then maybe your improv school makes you do a recital, and you can opt out. It's the little baby steps on the way to the performance.
Okay, I just had the best idea ever. We should do extra SaaS Marketing Gym sessions where we just do improv.
Zoom improv is really hard.
Oh, okay.
I have done it. I have led it. It can be really fun. Okay. We can play some short form games. Let's talk about this.
Okay, we'll talk about that later. So I do not have Lianna's natural inclination to be in front of people. When I started speaking, oh my gosh, I was so nervous. I can't even tell you. I'd practice my talk like 1,000 times and I'd basically memorize the whole thing. And I'm still not super comfortable with it. And I think to Lianna's point, like you have to trust that yourself is good enough and your opinions are valid and all of that is useful information. And I think you just have to do it. Like over, I mean, I've done like 500 podcasts now because I had my own, like, and so now I'm comfortable on a podcast because I've done literally 500. But you just have to do it over and over and over and over until it becomes more comfortable.
This whole theme of this entire show is just you got to do it. Like you can't just talk about it.
I know, right?
This is the thing that I'm very passionate about. Like I was given permission to do the thing that I love to do, which is combine comedy and copy and figure out how to make that convert. And now I want to give other people permission to do what feels fun to them, right? And like that they're kind of scared to, they're not allowed to. And for the record, I still get very anxious when I go on stage, but I try to remember everybody here wants you to succeed and everybody poops.
See, now you gave me permission to take an improv class because that's like, maybe that's the gateway. Maybe that is what's going to unlock that hidden talent that I never knew I had.
I really think it's true for most people.
I want to ask the question that I ask of all my guests at the end of our recording, and that is, if somebody's listening to this that thinks in following in each of your footsteps, what one piece of unconventional advice would you give them?
Figure out the thing that you are really good at that no one else is good at, or that you love doing more than everyone else, and bear hug that and build a business around that. Which is
that's such a hard one too.
Yeah.
I know I appreciate the sentiment, but that's a tricky one.
It boils down to follow your passion, which is the least helpful advice in the world.
Ever.
But I'm thinking like specific skills, like, do you find that you're really good at breaking the ice in a group of people? Maybe you should be a community builder, or like you're good at solving really technical problems or translating technicalities into layman's terms. Like maybe you should be a technical content writer, that kind of stuff.
I'm good at telling people what to do. What can I do with that? I like to tell people what to do.
Drill sergeant.
Well, it does come to kind of idea of focus on your strengths, not your weaknesses, right? So if you discover that you're strong at something and you're good at this, then lean into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if mine would be unconventional, but for people who have no background on me, I spent the last 2.5 years building a business that I was not interested in. And the reason I did that was because at the time, when I started the business, I thought it had the greatest path to success, where success meant money. And in hindsight, I spent way too long on something I did not care about. And so, I think especially if you're a more analytical thinker, a lot of my technical founder friends were like, okay, what is the end goal? Well, the end goal is probably to be rich, right? So, but make sure in your pursuit of that goal, if you're going to look back, or if you want to be independent or whatever, and look back on the past X number of years, you still enjoy, God, this is so cheesy, but you still like enjoyed the journey. Like you still did something, like when you try to decide what to work on, you want to be able to look back and be like, if this thing totally explodes, was I happy with how I spent the last 5-10 years? And if it's something that you don't like, that makes you miserable, even if it has what you think is a decent chance of success, like I would not recommend that path.
Minimize the volume of regret.
Yeah, totally. Well, and to Lianna's point, like, I don't like do something that you're naturally good at. Do something you care about. Like do something I don't know that I go all the way to do something you're passionate about, because I think that you can get lost and that could not make money. So you need to find like the balance, but you have to have some level of interest or care. And our best founders, that's not true. All of the founders in SaaS Marketing Gym are the best.
We love them all equally.
We love you all equally. All of the founders in SaaS Marketing Gym are awesome because they all care a lot about their product. Even if the product from the outside is kind of boring, they have this kind of like inherent passion for what they're building, and that builds momentum, and momentum compounds.
I think marketing is just the ability to get someone as excited about your thing as you are, right? So if you're not excited about your thing,
Right,
marketing is going to be an uphill slog.
Yes. That's right.
Such wonderful advice to wrap up the show. Where can folks find you if they want to follow your adventures?
I am Leanie Burger on the socials and Colleen Schnettler on LinkedIn.
And I am punchlinecopy.com most places. And we are at saasmarketinggym.com.
And we'll make sure that all the links are in the show notes, in the YouTube description, wherever you're listening to this podcast. You can just look at the description, click on those links. Colleen, Lianna, it's been wonderful talking to both of you. Thank you so much for making the time.
It was fun.
So much fun.